Hi guys, we've got a fair bit going on at the markets at the moment. I'll start with Bitcoin. I'll do an Ethereum video separately, and from there I'll follow on with an altcoin market update as well. So from here, I believe the last video was just before we broke 9,400. As you can see, we broke with a huge bearish engulfing candle. So that's a big key indicator of momentum. From here, I do suspect more downside. But just for now, we've got an oversold RSI and the weekly 50 holding pretty firm. We decelerated last week. So a little pop up here, I believe, before we continue our trend lower. This weekly 20 EMA has been fantastic, dynamic support and resistance, and dates way back further than May 2017. Other than this little section here on the parabolic correction with high volume and volatility, has been pretty firm and solid. So I do suspect that we'll meet the weekly 20 EMA again at some point, and then just track lower. So from here, my downside targets, we'll look at the fib levels. Low 7s is a 0.618 correction, and a full parabolic correction it usually is about 75 to 80% correction, which would take us to mid to low 5s. I've also got 6,000 here, which is pretty good support structure here. So I'm hoping this region here is the bottom before we can continue our trend higher. But just for now, it's not looking great. We'll see what the next couple of weeks has in store for us. Got the daily up now, guys. Not a great deal to report on here. I've got 8,400 penciled in. Not great support and resistance horizontal level. I more had that in as a target where I had a CME gap that was yet to be filled. I did discuss this quite a lot when we were well above 10,000, that if we did break down, we'd likely to see that. We have done that now. We've pulled back to 8,400 and rejected that level. So from here, we're just tracking sideways. I actually do think we're going to pop back a bit higher, 8,200, maybe 8,400, to retest this level and give the EMAs a little bit of time to come down and meet us. I'll just point out this golden cross here. This really did signal the daily trend change. We didn't quite come back to retest it, but we could get very much the same thing here. EMA death cross, a pullback. If we meet it, that's great. If we don't, this region here is going to be a great area to add some shorts and track this thing all the way down. So that's what I'm anticipating at the moment. A little bit of a pullback on the lower time frames. Nothing huge. If we do break and hold above 8,400, I'll be surprised. But we've still got a range in here that we could track in sideways for a while. I will find it hard to believe that at this point in time we're going to break back above 9,400 anytime soon. I'll just quickly point out the 1 hour. Not a great deal here, but we do have a trend line which we've rejected a few times. We're coming up now. This little run here is a little bit exhausted, so it's going to take a little bit of a push and punch to break through this trend line. I do think we will do that and retest this green line here. This is the 1 hour 200 EMA, which is also very close to the 4 hour 50 EMA. So this will close a gap in the CME futures, and also a retest here makes sense. We could push well higher and back up to this resistance level, back up above here, and keep within this range for a little while. So that's the 1 hour. We'll just see how this pans out. Looks exhausted. Could even reject this and head lower without filling the gap just for now. This is the CME chart here, guys, the 1 hour time frame. As you can see, this is the gap that opened up at the start of the week. We've closed pretty much half of it, and we're just rejecting the 1 hour 50 EMA now. I do suspect that we're going to close this gap. I haven't really seen too many gaps not be closed. In fact, I'll pull up the 4 hour chart shortly and show you there's only one gap I can find that has not been filled since existence. So the top of this gap, or the closing of this gap, is just under 8,200. So this is where I suspect that we're going to end up, possibly on this trend line here. So this will be an area where I'll be looking to go short for the next leg down, that's for sure. Okay, 4 hour time frame now, guys. This is the one I mainly use for CME gaps. Whether gaps get filled or not really depends on the time frame that you use sometimes. Various time frames, sometimes it looks like the gap has been closed, or it hasn't. Generally I use a 4 hour. It's been the best to detect gaps in the market and whether they get closed or not. As you can see, here's the 8,400 gap right there. That one's been closed now. Let's get rid of it. These are all the gaps here, the end of the trading week. They've all been filled, all these ones, the whole lot, every single one. This gap here actually hasn't. So 7,200, that's probably my next target for now. After we pull back, to see how far this pullback goes, 7,200 is my next target. all these other gaps got filled. This one here, this wick down closed. These little gaps here, they're all tiny gaps, they all got filled all along here. But I did have a look in more detail and I found one more gap. This is the only one I can find that hasn't been filled yet. So if we do break 6,000, 3,500 would be my bottom, I suspect, if they do come and get this gap. That's it there, has not been filled. They had a crack here, they tried to come down and get it, but they stopped short. So that's a little bit of alarming, bit of price action there. 3,500, we'll keep an eye on that. Are we going to get that low? Who knows? It's up to the whales to decide, but I'll be prepared for it, that's for sure. In the meantime, 7,200 is my next target after a pullback, and then 6,000, and we'll see how we go from there. So that's it for Bitcoin, the CME market. Let's have a look at Bitcoin dominance now. Bitcoin dominance, this is the weekly chart. What does this mean for Bitcoin? Not really too much I've found in regards to price of Bitcoin, but it's more an indicator for altcoins. And if we can see Bitcoin dominance drop, it generally gives the altcoins a bit of a chance to have a bit of a run, bit of a rally. So what we've got here, we've formed this channel. We've only got a couple of touches on it, but it's also decelerated and rejected about 71%. A previous top here, and not quite, but pretty much a 0.618 fib pullback from the previous high to the recent lows. From here, we've got some EMAs to retest, but we could also come down as low as this trend line here. So we could have an extended altcoin run. I'm not fully convinced, but I'll show you on my altcoin video coming up soon. There's quite a few nice daily charts looking for reversals on the altcoins, so going to have to keep a pretty close eye on it, but we're going to have to react quickly according to how Bitcoin and Ethereum move in the coming days and weeks. So that's really it for the weekly chart. Let's have a quick look at the 4 hour. Here's the 4 hour, and at the time of recording, today's been a pretty strong day for nearly all the alts, and here's possibly the reason why. Here's a strong rejection here, break and retest, little double bottom here, and we've broken through. So today, this is a 4 hour chart, so this is, that candle's just started forming, so we're about 12 hours into this altcoin rally, and it started happening pretty much as soon as we broke this level here. So that's an indication not so much on Bitcoin price because it hasn't done so much today, but more of a indication on what can happen with Bitcoin dominance. If the dominance starts disappearing from Bitcoin, it needs to flow somewhere else. Tether, altcoins, try and get some gains in some of these other places. That's really it for Bitcoin, the CME and the dominance chart. As far as an extended altcoin rally, I'm not too sure. I'm going to use the weekly chart, so I think the daily charts on some of the altcoins are going to be pretty crucial and key to converting some of our Bitcoin over for extra sats and gains from here.